Hello everyone, we are the VTeens, a teenage forum that creates awareness and educates teenagers and the public on teens sexual abuse. And VTeens, for the records, we do outreach. We reach out to teenagers all over the states via schools, educating them on sexual abuse. And today we'll be analyzing a case that we came across during the week. And I have with me
Abasifiki Basi
and Treasure Odoyan.
Okay, so we have a very pathetic story, and this story is one of the many stories that we've heard or cases we've handled. Okay, and this one we need to bring it to the public just so we all could learn and not to fall victim. And in case this same thing is happening to you, you can reach out to us and get help. Okay. All right. So please, can you read the story?
Okay. I am Rachel, 16 years old, living with my mom. I grew up in an abusive home with so much physical abuse from my dad to my mom and my siblings. I thought the highest pain to bear while living with my parents would just be the injuries inflicted on me by my dad. I came home from school unexpectedly. Passing through the back door to our room, I saw my dad sexually abusing my elder sister, who was just 14 years old as at that time.
Wow.
I was shocked and scared. My dad warned me never to tell anyone. My sister cried and begged for me to keep it a secret for her safety. I would always see my sister cry, and I knew my dad must have abused her again. I wished I knew better. I was scared, naive, and very young. She got pregnant for my dad eventually, and she was threatened and beaten to keep it a secret.
Threatened and beaten to keep it a secret.
Yeah.
Wow.
My dad forced her to get intimate with a young man in my village to cover up his evil deeds. It got to an extent that my sister could not take it anymore. She talked to my mom about it. My mom confronted my dad. He was so angry and threatened to kill my sister by all means possible. Few months after the treat, my sister died mysteriously with the pregnancy. After her death, I became his next victim. I was sexually abused by my dad severally until I summoned the courage to escape and live with my mother's sister. My parents got separated when my mom got to know that my dad was responsible for the pregnancy of my late elder sister. I have lived with so much pain, anger, fear, and great resentment towards my dad and everyone I feel should have protected us. All I ever wanted was to take the life of my dad, and if I ever get caught or punished, I will live without regretting it.
Wow. What a story. And to think that this really happened to someone. Let's even say the story of abuse is, I think everybody involved in this story beside the dad is a minor, because she said
her sister was 14.
Was 14 years,
Yeah.
right? And she's currently 16, meaning as at the time this abuse or this event took place,
She was a minor.
she was, of course, that should be around
Probably 12.
12 years, right?
Yes.
I guess you're right.
Yes, probably 12 years old.
12 years
Because normally the age gap in most African homes between children is mostly 2 years.
yeah.
And since her sister was 14 by then, we just assume she was 12 years old.
Well, let's say 11, but something not too far.
Not
but
too
close.
far, 11, 12. Okay,
Yes.
now imagine a child going through something of this nature,
At that age.
at that age. 12 years, you've got to see all of this happening in your home, the very home where you should find comfort, peace, where you should be protected.
Yeah.
Okay, it's really, 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 really
Bad.
pathetic. Really, really. Okay, now for this, okay, well, let's say the characters involved in this story. We have the dad,
Yes.
who is the abuser.
Yeah.
Then we have the elder sister, which is the first victim,
Yes.
then she
Rachel.
herself, the Rachel, which is the second victim,
Yes.
and then the mom, who is I think because she talked about her mom,
Yeah.
Yes.
okay, at that time being married to the dad, so
Yes.
it's assumed, or we know, that the mom stays with them also. So she is just, though not in the picture, but at least background.
Yes.
So we got the father, the mother, we got two sisters.
Yes.
Okay, so now let's analyze the character of the father first, because I cannot imagine like a father
Can do
having
this.
a sexual relationship with his daughter, and did not stop there. Even when death occurred, like you lost your child, it was not still enough to make you stop.
He moved
You
on.
still went further to
To
the
the next
next
person.
the next child, your own child. Is really terrible. So let's look at the character of the father. Okay, now for the dad, I don't know, we really need to help people out there. Now, what should we look out for to identify fathers of this kind?
I think in this situation, what was really glaring there was that the father was powerful and domineering.
Powerful and domineering.
Yes, because he was already abusive to the mother
Okay.
and them also. So before he even started sexually abusing the children, he was already physically assaulting
Yeah.
his wife and
Yeah, we
the
can.
children.
Yes.
And
From
also-
the story.
So for the fact that they stayed together, they lived. She was her elder sister was about 14 years when she first found out that her father was abusing her sexually. That means her mother and her father had been married for over 14 years now,
Yes.
and he had been physically assaulting her. So that means he was powerful and domineering, so that the mother couldn't speak up or whatever.
So that's to say, fathers, okay, fathers of that kind will want to exert a kind of, is it authority,
Yes.
unnecessarily giving this picture of them being very fearful
Yeah.
and all that, just so that they can do
He's
their,
still fearing
do the
people.
things they do
Yes.
and still get away
Get
with
away
it.
with it.
Okay,
Yes.
so I think this is, yeah, that's so true, right?
Yes.
Very, very true. Okay, what else can we look out for?
Being over affectionate.
Okay, being how a dad should be affectionate towards
Yeah, but like
his family members.
yeah, how do I explain it? Okay, being overly affectionate towards
Overly,
your
okay.
victim.
Let's understand you more, please.
Okay, like we all know the fact that if an abuser, between an abuser and a victim, it's always like, oh, don't worry, I'll get you ice cream if you just comply, or I'll get you this if you start to notice that this particular person is getting more attention or affection than the other children, you should be able to be like, something is
It's a red
fishy,
flag, so
something
one
is
should look
fishy
into
going on
it.
here. Because let's take an example now. Maybe I'm the victim
Okay.
and I go up to the abuser and I'm like, oh, I want a 15 Pro Max and iPhone. And then my sibling, who is not being abused too,
Yeah.
goes up and is like, I want the 15 Pro Max too. Between me and my sibling, obviously it's me that he will get the phone
Yeah,
for, because
because-
he has to keep me short.
Yes.
Because I can go up to him and be like, if you don't give me the phone,
I'll
everybody
get it.
will know,
Yes.
obviously. And then I'm holding a 15 Pro Max by the next day, but my sister doesn't have. And the funny thing is that we requested both at the same time.
yeah.
And you know the funny thing, sometimes you may not even have to ask. You just
Give it to
those
you
gifts.
willingly.
It will be so
Yeah.
glaring, that's
Yeah.
so obvious that
Something
this person
fishy.
is
Has
int-
ulterior
has
motive.
has a motive towards
Yeah.
this particular child. I remember back then in Calabar we had a case where a father was overly affectionate, protective,
Oh.
okay, of a particular child. He has about 3 kids, I think, 2 girls and a boy, and this very particular one, even if that child does anything that's wrong, he will never
Wow.
correct or try to even make this girl angry in any way.
Wow.
Okay, so even if the wife, which is their mom, wants
Yeah,
to like, no,
correct.
you should be like, no, leave her. Okay, so so much care, so much attention, okay, to the detriment of other kids.
Yeah.
And that was a very a red flag that everyone overlooked. So
Yes.
it turned out that he is having a sexual
Okay.
relationship with this particular child,
Wow.
which it was discovered later. By then, a whole lot of havoc or harm has been done already, you guys. So, okay, so that's a very valid point everyone should look out for. Okay, and also that's for the teenagers. When you have, if your father or your mom, whoever is the abuser, tends to be too affectionate, or yeah, affection is fine. You're their child. It should be there, but when it's too much,
That you yourself,
you know
start
that,
questioning
yes,
it.
and then you started saying moves or things that is just not right. You should know
Yeah.
that this is it.
Yeah.
That's your dad is a potential or will be a potential. How do we put
Or
it?
can there already be one?
Okay, that's if he has not abused kids around him in the
Yeah.
past. So it means we should be very, very careful.
Careful.
Okay, so
And
yeah,
I also think that them being overly affectionate is them trying to treat this particular child specially, makes the particular child feel special, and that makes the child vulnerable to them. And when once the child's in that vulnerable state, they are able to manipulate that child and have their way with them.
so the abusers tend to make their kids very vulnerable
Very
to them.
to them.
So that they
Okay,
can easily
just so they can
manipulate them.
easily manipulate. I think that's very common among
Yes, yes.
abusers, both within the home and outside the home. They try to look out for kids or teenagers that are vulnerable, that
Yeah.
lacks emotional support from their home
Yeah.
or environment and all that. So they go for kids like that.
Yes.
So this
As you just
Yeah.
said something about emotional
lack of emotional
lack
support.
of emotional
emotional
support.
support,
Yeah.
yes.
I just remembered a book I read. The name of the book was, I think, The Scar. I've
The
forgotten
Scar,
the
okay.
name of the author. The girl, her mom and her dad, how she came about was like something that was like,
It wasn't planned.
yeah, it wasn't planned. But her parents, they were never together. It was like her mom was in uni and her dad was in uni too. So it was something, one thing led to the other, one thing led to the other. They slept together. So when he found out that he had a child, he told her that she should go and abort the child. That he's not going to take care of a child or anything, that he has his studies to face and all that. So she did not abort the child. Now the child grew up and everything. The girl now had a resentment towards her mom because she felt like her mom was the reason why she didn't have her dad present in her life. I don't know why. So there was a teacher in their school. I can't really recall his name. There was a teacher in their school. Like the teacher used to, I would just say, make advances towards her. He presented himself as a very top
nice
father model for her.
Okay.
Something she was lacking in her
Lacking,
life.
yes,
Yeah.
okay.
That's where that emotional support comes
in, okay.
So he's doing fatherly acts for her. Like, oh, you did not do your homework. Come, let me help you do your homework. Or, oh, you're lacking behind in these subjects. Come over to my house for some lessons. So something like that. I think she was lacking behind in a subject. So he was like, oh, come over to my house for a lesson. So she went now and she was just like sitting down waiting for him. Before he now started making advances towards her. And like she was, how would I even explain? She was thinking, this man that like I had so much
Respect
for,
yes.
I looked up to him a lot. I even thought of him like as if that is something that
father
you
that I
have
never
earned.
really
Yeah,
had.
that's
Yeah.
something that you have like really, really earned. She could not believe it, so she just shut down and everything. It was
Now you
bad.
say it's simple. It means people will always use your vulnerability against you.
Yes.
So that moment where you are vulnerable, be very, very careful not to expose yourself to people who use it against you, because it's normal. That is not is what is where this happens in the society. When you're very vulnerable, you lack something, people want to throw that thing to you because they know you want to grab it
Yeah.
and then use it against you.
Yes.
Okay, so
And then I also think that another way you can identify some of these fathers is that sometimes they push past their boundaries,
Yeah.
physical and sexual boundaries. Like overly, okay, you're hugging a child, and then the next thing you're rubbing your hands over her. You get, that is being extreme. Yes, you understand that this is a child and you may want to feel affectionate, but then there are limits
Yeah,
to
they
this
are
thing.
Okay, then that means
There are
every
boundaries
parent
to
at
these
this point, because that's a very valid point,
Yeah.
it simply means every parent out there should be able to train their girl child, but it's abuse is both for the guys and the
And the
girls.
girls,
It
yeah.
can happen to anyone.
Yes.
So parents, train your children to know when a hug
It's more than
It's
a
more
hug.
than
is
a
more
hug.
than a hug.
Yeah.
When that kiss is too far,
Yeah.
how far can it go?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
remember when I was in school and they would tell us any handshake that passes your elbow is no longer a handshake. So
brush it
that's
off.
that's a suspicion.
Yes.
That's something.
So
to get
even
suspicious
as your
about.
dad, of course you hug your dad.
Yeah.
Okay, so while hugging your dad, and you notice that his hands are
all over
You're
you.
moving about too
okay.
much.
So it's simple. Simply withdraw. Try to watch it, and if you know that is something that okay at this point you know this is it, then you need to speak out.
Yeah.
Okay, speak to your mom, your parents, your any. Just ensure that
You
you
spoke
speak out,
now.
just so you don't fall victim. Because at the end of the day, you need to protect yourself.
Exactly.
Nobody will do it for you.
Not at all.
Any other thing we are doing after the abuse has taken place is what we call damage control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
prevention, they say, is better than
prevention is far better than cure. So when you notice the signs and you know that okay, this thing is getting too far, this is not how it should be.
Yeah.
The next thing you do is to
Speak
speak
out.
out.
Yeah.
Now talking about speaking out, okay, I asked at first if there's anything a 12 years old child can do to save the situation. I believe there are children some who can talk,
Yes.
shout, scream.
Exactly.
Like
You cannot
immediately
try
they
them.
see it, they'll
Just
run off.
scream.
Mommy, come and see what's happening here. I saw this, I saw that. Okay, I believe there are kids like that.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
so now let's say, beside this child being enlightened or not being enlightened or exposed to certain things because of our environment,
Yeah.
do you think there's anything we can do to make victims know that this threat most time does not really hold water?
I think there are things that can be done. Maybe we could cite certain instances to them because a majority of the stories, let me see. Yes, there are times that people give threats and they carry it out. Like in this story,
Yes.
it seems the father actually fulfilled his threat because he
carried out
threatened to kill that girl and the girl died mysteriously.
Mysteriously, yes.
So obviously, all fingers are pointed to him as the result of that girl's death. But that's like maybe one out of 50 stories of
Okay.
people that threatened and carried out their threats. So I think these victims should be able to know that these people are only giving threats because they are trying to protect themselves.
Exactly.
And as much as they are trying to protect themselves, you have to do everything in your power to also protect
yourself.
And most times, they don't carry out those threats.
And the only way you can protect yourself
It's by speaking
is
out.
by speaking out.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
So find the right authorities, find organizations like Beatings
Yeah.
here. We are ready to always listen to you. So find organizations like this, speak out to somebody, a trusted female adult, if you're a female, speak out to that person, and then the person will know how to discreetly go about it, especially in a situation where a threat seems like it's over the bar. Like
Yes.
it's like this situation where the father threatened to kill, then you know that okay, if you're the one handling this kind of situation, you know how to go about it discreetly.
So
but
ensure
by
that
all
lives are
means,
not lost.
yes, but by all means you have to speak out.
Speak out.
You have to.
Okay, so having analyzed the father in this case, you know, these are people you stay with, you live with them.
Yeah.
You literally cannot avoid them at certain
Exactly.
points, especially when you're a minor.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the only option you have
Just to speak out.
is to speak out. Okay, now let's go over to the mom.
Okay.
Now, because though she didn't say much about the mom, and it's obvious from her story, the mom was not aware. Now, is it possible for a woman, a mother, to stay in a house where something like that is happening and you don't have an idea, like you don't know? Not just something that happened in a day, something that has been happening. Is it really possible?
I feel it is.
To an extent, yes, it is.
Yes. Let's take for an instance, if the mom is like maybe a person that her job before it's 6 o'clock, she's off.
Okay.
And by then, maybe the children aren't even awake. And before she comes back, it's also late. By then, the children are asleep. So she doesn't get to like communicate with them, ask them, "Oh, how was your day? How was this?" How I feel it's possible.
Okay, probably people who have very busy.
Yeah, very busy
schedules.
schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I also think there are some people who do not have the enlightenment that most of us do. So there are people who grow up with so much naivety, and they take that up to adulthood. So they are not able to pay attention to details. They're not able to notice the things that are and the things that should not be, or okay, when something is off about somebody or somebody's action. So I think it is very possible for that kind of person to be in a case where to be in a space where abuse is going on, but she doesn't know.
And
Yes.
I feel like most of the time, most of them just brush it off, like, "Oh, you're just overreacting. Maybe his hand slipped, or he didn't mean to touch you like that, or maybe what if he was coming to pray for you as you were sleeping?" You get something like that. They tend to brush it off as like, "Oh, you're overreacting." In that type of situation, the child is like, if I go back again and tell her, she's going to tell me that I'm just talking nonsense.
Yeah, I'm really will not.
What I'm saying does not make any
act
sense.
surprised.
Yeah, the child knows. So the child would rather keep quiet than walk up to the person and receive the same treatment that the child got before.
Okay, so now for our mothers, what solution can we profile, or can we profile to mothers who tend to be so insensitive? They are not observant. How can we even help them so that when they have victims in their house, with them living with them, they will know?
I think that this advice should actually go to everyone. People should learn to take note of details.
Details.
Yes, because there, especially as you're growing, there are things you get to realize that okay, this is how this thing always is. But then when you notice that okay, this is how something always is, when something changes about it, you're able to spot the difference. You get so when you're so used to your child, when you're so used to how your child behaves, maybe when that child was growing up, she was always very free around her father, always hugging her father, expecting him to get back home.
And you notice certain
And then suddenly there's a withdrawal. You should be able to, something is wrong. That's you paying attention to details. So people should actually learn to pay attention
when these
to
victims have mood
little
swings.
details.
Because I
Yeah.
believe that, just like she said in her story, that she cries a lot.
Yeah.
That many times
She'll come back and meet her
she'll come back
sister
and meet her sister. Okay, that's her sister
Yes,
crying.
yes,
So she already knows that
something has
something
happened.
has just happened
Yeah,
again.
yes.
That's why the sister is crying. That's true, right?
Yes.
So it means if the mom is observant enough to pay attention that this child is always carrying a sad face,
Yes.
she's always crying, then she will be able to know that something is wrong and probably try to
Trace the
find
root of
out,
the problem. Yeah.
to know why that child is always like that.
Yes.
Okay, so parents, you really need to be more sensitive. You need to be more observant. Pay attention to details. Okay, what else, please?
Prioritize open communication.
Open communication with your
Yes.
kids. Okay.
Parents should be able to go to a point in their life that the bond that they have with their children is actually very, very strong. That your child can peacefully open up to you
Yeah.
without knowing very well that, oh, if I should tell my mom this thing, there is no how. She will step
Yeah.
up and she will take
Find the
action.
solution.
Yeah.
Exactly.
She will find the solution. Create an atmosphere where your child does not feel like they are being a burden to you. You get, like, let me say, oh, I read something funny and I'm coming to come and tell you as my mom, and you're like, oh, I'm quite busy right now. I'll feel, oh, she doesn't
Have my time.
Yeah, she doesn't have
care
my
about
time.
me.
So when the time comes that I actually need you, that particular time, I'm going to feel like, oh, what if she just pushes me aside again? So one thing I would like for parents, they should prioritize open communications at least once in a week, possibly once in a week. Just come around, discuss about your day, how your week went, how school was, at least anything, any random topic of any sort.
Okay, now let's push this further. Now this is this is a story that's about a family. Now that this woman, the abuser, is the husband, the victim is a child. What will you advise? Like, I don't know. Is there anything you can tell her to look out for in her husband, the father of her children? Just so maybe when she sees these things, she'll be able to know that, okay, let me look further, I'm sure there's nothing really happening.
Okay. But you do know that there are some women that even if they look out and they see these things, they'll feel like, oh, what will the society talk about me now?
You know, it's always about the society.
Yes.
What to protect your family
what
name.
will this person at work hear say when she hears about this
Exactly.
group? What will my manager say? What will the women leader say? What will that's always the problem. That's where the whole they can. I'm telling you, there are some situations that most of the times they see it too,
Yeah.
but they're in denial. They're like, no, that cannot be my husband. That cannot be the person I have been married to. They choose not to believe it. I feel like it's more easier on them to know that
To just deny it.
Yeah, to just deny it than actually act on it.
Act on it.
Because acting on it, they feel very heartbroken or like something like that.
Yes.
So,
And I also think
but that's them clearly not prioritizing
Their
their
child's
child's
welfare.
well-being over an adult.
And you know the annoying part? This adult is definitely going to. This adult has less years to live, while this child has how many more years to live? So you're prioritizing this adult's safety. You're prioritizing a single adult's safety, a single adult's image over the image of, I'll say, generations, because
Yeah.
this child has other people bringing after her. So if you're playing deaf ears or deaf eyes to a situation of abuse because you don't want to spoil your family name or you don't want to embarrass your husband, then what happens to your child, the children that she's going to bring up in that same out of
Yes,
that
because
trauma
yes,
of
it
abuse?
doesn't always
end
end
with her.
with
Yeah, it
just
does
that
not,
abuse
yes.
that has happened to that
It
child.
doesn't end
The
there.
damage it will cause to that child,
Would
it
actually
will
end
affect her, and also will affect her
Her
relationship tomorrow.
Yes.
Also with her kids also. Okay, and for crying out loud, parents, if you know you cannot protect a child, then don't bring one to the world.
That's okay.
Because I have a child. My child should be protected at all costs. She is my priority, my responsibility.
Yeah.
I owe her that protection till when she'll become of age. Protection from anybody.
Yeah.
That is how it should be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you know as a parent, or you know you cannot pay attention to your kids, or you know you cannot protect your child when the needs arises against your belief, against your emotions, against whatever you think the society will say, then don't bring a child to this world.
Because you end up growing a generation of damaged children.
That is it.
And the cycle continues. Because that person will not be able to. It's going to. By the time that situation escalates,
Yeah.
it's going to be more difficult to find solutions, to find help.
Yeah,
to it.
because
Meanwhile,
it
if you
will
had
go far.
tackled it from the onset,
Yes.
it would have been very easy. Because that person has still been a child and it had been easy to find solutions, to talk to somebody. But by the time the person grows, that trauma, everything, you keep remembering the scenarios
Events and everything
it's
that
just
happened.
it just goes
Yes.
so crazy and you just withdraw. And then I also mentioned that you were asking about some traits that mothers should look out for to
Yeah.
find out if their husbands are abusive. Well, like I mentioned, pushing past physical and sexual boundaries. Some of them may even be with words, not
Yes.
necessarily.
Yeah,
some of them just
languages.
use foul languages
Yes.
around, sexual
Yeah,
sexual words that
exactly.
shouldn't be heard among children, and you're seeing
And
it
you
out
see
there.
that this person as an adult use this vulgar words or use these words like without thinking twice.
Yeah,
Yes.
just
You
say
know,
it
so you should know
anyhow.
that that person is capable of doing anything. So if let's say for example now, let's say your husband, okay, is always with around with your kids and says things that he ought not. This is not even just about your husband.
It's about
Anybody,
people
even your
around.
friends.
Even
Yeah.
his friends.
Maybe if you have neighbors that come around, your friends from work and all that, and when they come to your house with your kids, they feel very free to say things they're not supposed to say. Okay, illicit say things that
Yeah, vulgar words.
yes, that you ought not to use the F words and co. And they're so comfortable discussing that in the presence of your kids. That's a person that can actually abuse a child.
Yes, like I read a story once of how a father, okay, he had a child and his daughter grew, and I think he posted his daughter's picture, maybe her birthday or her
Okay.
graduation. He posted a picture online, and she commented, this your babe, this your child don't mature, oh. This your girl don't ripe, oh.
As
You
how?
get? So people using those kind of words around. You know that
You
these
should not
are
even
traits.
yes.
of an
Like, in
abuser.
what
Exactly.
aspect of this your child?
And you know, sometimes people just
don't
throw these words carelessly. This one don't be good. She don't write.
And then the
understand?
thing
And you're
about
laughing
details
about
too.
it.
The thing
It's not
about
funny.
details, they'll be like, oh, it's just a usual common comment.
There's nothing
You get
common about
Yes.
it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Some
There's
people,
nothing
actually,
common about
some
it.
people actually feel like, oh, maybe he was just playing. He was not
He
playing.
was not playing.
That's
He
the
was
thing.
not.
Because
That's it.
you see this thing of even when the Bible says as a man thinks in his heart, so is
So
he.
that's
For
it.
you to be able to say something like that, you need to talk
you
about
talk about
it in
because
your
how
brain.
can you have that? How can you just see a 5-year-old like say, as your brain, just your child don't mature? As what? How?
You're not thinking with your head.
And
And then you see parents leaving
Laugh-
their children
they laugh
with
about
people
it.
of that kind. Okay, they live there. What do you think will happen?
Plenty
Okay,
things.
so I think this is an eye opener to our parents. When you have your friends, neighbors, adults around you, however they're related to you, and you see that they're very comfortable sexualizing
Your child,
children,
yes.
even if it's not your child, even
Or
if
children
anything,
around.
Yeah.
just know that that is a very big red flag.
Very
That
big
person
one. It's a red
will
banner.
carry out that same act
No,
someday.
it's more than a red flag. Oh.
It's more than a red
It's a
flag.
red banner.
Wow. Okay, now so let's go over to now the victim, the first victim, which is the elder
The
sister.
elder sister, yeah.
Now, as at the time that abuse took place, she said
She was 14.
she was 14.
Yeah.
Now at 14, I believe at 14, you should have a voice
Yeah, that
of your own. So I think I see the sister as one who is so
Very
timid,
quiet.
fearful,
Yeah.
and
Someone that can be easily manipulated.
Manipulated.
And that was why the father took advantage of her.
of her first.
Yes. Because I think he would have just gone through the last one not to say, oh, this was a small girl, she won't know anything. But he went to the elder one because
Yeah.
that person, she was obviously
The
very
only
timid
reason why that
and
one
quiet.
escaped that initial stage is, I think, because they had to beg her and threaten her to keep quiet.
Yes.
It means that one is more
Outspoken.
more outspoken.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'd like to look at it from a very different angle.
Okay.
What if the abuse did not start then?
Okay.
Let's look at it from that angle. What if it started like way back? So now she's grown up, she's tired, she's emotionally drained,
Yeah.
mentally,
Yeah.
physically, everything about her she's drained. She's like, what's the use? It has
That's
gone
true.
on for such a very, very long time.
She's used to it.
Yeah, she's used to it. What's the
Yeah.
point? So I feel like she was just begging her sister to keep quiet because
She
almost
doesn't want
she's used to it already. Do you get?
yeah.
Is that like a part of her life now?
That's such
Something
a
now
pitiable
looks-
state.
Yes.
And I think that's at that point, that's when you say someone, because of the things that has happened to that person, now that event has damaged
Damage
The
that person.
Yes.
I would like to
because
think
she
that
accepted it.
yes, she has accepted
Okay,
because
imagine her
pleading with her sister.
living with the sister.
because she's 14. She's
Yeah.
supposed to even be telling her sister that she should be the one speaking up.
Yes.
Yeah, but come to look at
A
it.
14-year-old should be in probably SS1.
Yes,
So,
SS1
yes.
or even SS2.
Yes. So she actually had the ability to open up. I'm pretty sure that she had access to information, or she was more enlightened
Than her
Yes.
little sister.
Yes, but probably this abuse started from a very, very,
Young,
very
yeah.
young age.
And she's like, have your way with me.
And you know,
Kind of
the
struggling.
most painful part of this all is that she died
She died
in
at
the
the
process. Like she died. So imagine the pain, like
very
the pregnancy, the trouble that comes with it. Imagine her being
The stigma,
forced.
The stigma.
Yeah, being
too.
forced to even sleep with someone else
else
just
to
so they
cover
can.
up.
That girl
The stigma.
must have gone through.
A lot.
Imagine her
Yes.
friends at school, they don't even know what's going on, and they're like, oh, look at her, she got pregnant for that man in the village. Meanwhile, in her heart, she's like,
She
do
knows.
they really know if it's that man?
That man must be really.
And I also think that father's case is actually way more than just abuse. It was probably more. It was up to a mental issue.
Yes,
Because
I think
it's not
that's
normal.
another thing. Yes.
It was up to a
Thank
mental
you for
issue.
raising that point.
It was up to a
Yes.
mental issue.
Because most time, these people are
They're
mentally.
psychotic. They're actually
Yes.
psychotic. Because you cannot be mentally stable and you'll be sleeping with somebody that shares half of your DNA.
Even when with all that has happened, even when you lost that child, you did not feel bad. You still went on.
You moved
to
on.
the next
The next
person.
person.
I think that is a madman we are talking about here.
More
as a
than a
father.
madman, ma.
Because at the end of the day, you realize that in some cases of abuse, sometimes at some point the abuser becomes remorseful.
Yes.
But in this case, this father had like
There was no sign of
it was
divorce,
a
because
mental
for you to kill your child,
issue.
leave that child that died there
And move on to the
you
next
moved
one.
on to the next one
It's a
and you
mental case.
continued.
So it was more
So
than
that person should be in a psychiatric home, right?
Exactly.
Ma, more than that. Mama.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, now, so this is to all teenagers out there. Learn to speak out. If that girl was bold enough to speak out,
Yeah.
she would
Should
have,
have found help.
yes, one way or
Early.
the other.
Should have
The
found
cycle
Probably-
would have not continued.
Yes, perhaps by her just speaking out, okay, the father maybe would have been scared at a point
Yes.
and just have to let go because people are aware.
Yes.
You know, because of even the Bible said it that sin
Thrives in secrecy.
strives in secrecy.
Yes.
So the father has that power over her as long as that
It's
thing
just
remains
between
a
the both of
secret.
them.
Yeah.
Our little
But once
secrets.
another person is aware, he will not be able.
Yeah.
Do you get?
Yes.
So if she was bold enough to talk to the mom about it, at least the mom eye will be on them.
him, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
And
also like
maybe
to
it should
think
have
that-
saved a lot.
I also like to think that maybe he did not even start from his daughter's affairs. Let's say children in the neighborhood.
Oh, that's always the case.
Or maybe when he was much younger,
Yes.
children in the neighborhood.
That's
Because what do you mean you're still
I know. Okay, another thing that gets me really pissed is mothers who are aware that
But
their
don't want to
husbands
talk.
are like this
They
and
don't
they're
want
still
to
keeping
talk.
quiet about it.
Like, what exactly are you protecting? Like, I think as a mother self, I don't understand how a mother will go through a situation. You've carried a child for 9 months. You took care of that child. Like,
you know what
you know
went
what you
through.
went through to bear that child, and then you bring this child forth, and then something happens, and you prioritize someone else who doesn't even care about himself or this child over this child that you so worked hard for. It's crazy, because your child should be your top priority over anybody else. Your child first, and that's the reason why, as you can see, the same mother stayed in that abusive relationship,
Yes.
that abusive marriage. That was when he was not able to move from physically assaulting the mother to sexually abusing the
Exactly.
children. But if she had not stayed, then, or if she didn't let that thing get to that point, then her children would have been free. So your child should be your top priority. Your child should, I don't even know.
But you also aware that there are some mothers that go as far as being like, oh, it's you that is the reason why he's sexually abusing you.
Yes.
Like in an aspect of,
yes,
why would
exactly.
you wear something like that and come? What do you expect him to do? Are you
Exactly.
okay upstairs?
Now justifying.
Yeah, just
the
the
abuse.
You remember the case we had? Something very similar to this
Yeah.
in one of the schools where the child said, okay, she was staying with the stepdad and the mom.
Yeah.
And the stepdad became abusive sexually towards her, and she reported to her mom. And the mom said she's possessed.
Wow.
That in short, she's the one that is seducing the
Yeah.
husband.
Yeah.
And she went as far as making, as in undressing the girl, like she undressed the girl
To be like, what
Yes,
exactly do you
in
have?
front of the
man.
husband, the stepdad. Like, okay, what do you have that you think he will be interested in?
Must be
What
nice.
exactly?
That's level of ignorance. Like,
And that's why I said denial. Most of them, they cannot be, so they look for so many different ways.
Yeah.
They go as far as blaming an innocent child.
forget
Sometimes
that.
it's the maid, the maid, they are like, it is you. Why would you tire up her to go and give my husband his breakfast?
They forget that it's not about the maid. It's
Actually.
not about the victim. It's the abuser.
Like, no situation of abuse should actually, there's no justice, there's no justification for abuse. You are an abuser, that's who you are, and that's why you're able to abuse somebody. This child did not make you do it, because we have seen people that were raped, they did not.
They were well dressed.
They were well dressed.
Yeah.
Well covered. Yeah, in as much as we are not saying teenagers go about naked,
Yeah,
we
no.
will always advocate decency.
Exactly.
Dress properly. Okay,
Yes.
that should be on an as in your normal way of life.
Yes.
Dress appropriately.
Yes.
Okay. But then again,
there's
it
no
is not a
justification.
reason for an it's not a reason to
Justify
to
abuse.
justify
Abuse.
a case of abuse.
Yeah.
It's not a reason. It's always about the abuser. First we have an abuser before a victim.
Yes. Okay, I also want to talk about the girl. Like, that's the Rachel girl. She said she eventually ran away to stay with her auntie. And I was actually wondering, even though you actually had an auntie that you could run to for
Why
rape,
didn't you leave
why
the
did that
lessons?
come up since?
I think
Because
you
of the
don't
fear.
understand. Yeah, actually,
Because
the fear
remember what she said, that the dad said,
that he will.
okay, and you saying that it's as if this threat actually came to play.
Yeah,
my
it came
sister
to play.
actually
My
died.
sister actually
What
died.
if he
He
eventually
moves
kills
on
my
to
mom,
me.
kills me also? I think, but we've already talked about that.
Yeah.
Threat is not enough to keep your mouth shut,
Yeah.
especially now that we have many organizations such as victims also. We have
Yes.
lots of organizations out there. You can as well walk up to a police officer, go to the police station, make a case, okay? Go to your church. If you're a Christian, if you're a Muslim, meet
Talk
these
to
respected
pastor, talk to-
elders in
yeah.
church,
I
mothers.
think
Tell them, just
schools-
voice out.
Schools are the easiest way to just loot them.
Exactly. I think this is where teachers
Yeah,
come in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they go to school 5 days in a week.
Exactly.
So you cannot tell me that a child that was like, oh, so happy on Monday comes to school on Tuesday and the child is just.
So
we
withdrawn
drawn.
and quiet
Yeah.
and not
You
doing
get
anything
the
about
child
it.
is not the same child that you saw the previous day, and you as a teacher you're like, oh, it's not my child, so it's not my business. No, it is your business.
Yes, teachers are in short, we cannot overlook the role
Of the
teachers
teacher,
have to
yeah,
play.
Because
Yes.
most of the time you find out about some of these cases of abuse from schools.
From schools.
Yeah, from
So for
yes.
the child to be able to open up, it means the person feels more safe
in
school or with some teachers, around certain teachers.
Or you notice
or
that
even their
the
principal.
child is
You get-
reluctant to go back home.
Exactly.
Like let me say school closes by 2:30, and you're still seeing the, and you know that the child does not engage in like activities that are rough or anything. You're still seeing the child in school like around 3
Trying
to
to
4.
find out.
Find out what's going on with that child, because you cannot tell me why somebody does not look forward to going back home.
Yeah.
Exactly.
After that type of stressful day, having classes, everything.
And you see this child around.
Yeah, you still see the child. Maybe the child is just looking so
Yeah, and this is us saying thank you to those teachers who are
yeah,
extremely
detailed and they
detailed,
look out
Yes.
for things.
observant. Because
Yes, yes.
we've had cases where teachers are the one
Bring
who
these
approach us and they're
cases
like,
to us,
we
yeah.
observe this, can you talk to this child, can you
Yeah.
help us with this child?
Yes.
We've had cases of that kind, and
Yes.
we are happy that at least, but we need more of these teachers.
Yes.
Teachers who are passionate about their jobs. Teachers who go beyond the school
Those curriculum and
curriculum.
everything.
Who are interested in
The lives
the
of
lifestyle
these children.
of these children.
Yes.
But Mad, you find it funny to know that there are some schools that don't encourage that.
Okay, how?
Like there are some schools that are like you should not know about it. There are some parents that they find out, oh, this particular teacher is intruding too much. Like let me say if the child is
Yeah.
from an abusive home, they go as far as going to the principal or something and they're like, oh, tell that teacher to stop whatever he or she
Yes,
gets.
that is true, because
Yes.
we also experienced that in one of the schools where we had lots of cases of abuse.
Yeah.
And when we met the principal was like, please, anyhow you want to handle this case, please be careful.
Exactly.
Because parents, we don't want it to look as if the school reported. I'm like, don't want it to look as if the school reported. Let it look as if the child met you outside, so that it will not look like a school
Was
thing.
Yeah.
You know, no, as schools, you can do better.
Exactly.
You
But
can do
a
better.
school is a body, it's more than just one person.
Yes.
You get, so I think it's easier to even tackle the case from school
Exactly.
rather than an individual.
But most of these parents they go as far as threatening the school. So they threaten the child and they threaten the school.
Authorities, the school has
Yes.
access to organizations
So-
that they can reach out to.
Yes. Schools, yeah, that is it, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
Schools can reach out to organizations, school can report these cases to the appropriate bodies, hand over the case.
And even
Let's-
also taking into the fact that this
Yes.
the parent of this child has threatened
Yes.
Exactly.
the school. So I think the school is even like has
So an abuser cannot threaten a child. and then threaten the school, a whole school.
But it's possible though. Some people they are
No, I'm not saying it's not.
honest.
It's possible because
That's why
we've
it's
seen
very
these cases,
possible.
yes. But then the school
you
should
think-
not accept that fact that somebody an abuser, a child reports a case of this kind to you, and the parent or the abuser in question is trying to shut the school.
School.
Yes.
If an abuser can shut a school that comprises of a principal, head teachers, counselors, teachers, cleaners, securities, then it's
Who is that abuser? Who on earth?
I don't know if you understand.
Because at the end of the day, you're trying to make these children know that you have to speak out, right?
Yes.
So there's no point that a child opens up to you, and then you now say that this abuser also threatening the school, and so you cannot do anything about it. It's not making
So that
sense.
child is going to remain silent,
Forever.
and that abuse will never stop.
And another thing is that I feel like schools should start adding things like this to their curriculums.
Yes.
If they don't add it fully to their curriculums, they can organize like conferences.
Yeah,
for
just
those
like
little
what
people.
we
Yeah,
do.
just like
Okay,
what we
if
do.
the school cannot handle cases like that,
They
they
can
can
invite
that's
like
why we're
victims,
here.
yeah.
They will
We can
actually,
invite victims.
they will actually find out that a lot of their students are actually going
Going
through
through.
what they are trying to talk about.
And if a child is in your school who is facing any form of abuse, especially sexual abuse, there's no how that child will come out, will do well academically.
At all.
There's no way because there'll be so much distraction.
They are
That's
thinking
certainly
about a
going-
lot.
So
Yes.
so if the school is not looking at that aspect of a child's
life.
well-being, every other thing you're doing is more like you pouring water
In
in a basket. Yeah, I
Exactly,
think that
yes.
settles it.
Nothing
Yeah.
else is going to work.
Nothing else will work.
Nothing is going to work.
Okay, so please, to every institution out there, be genuinely interested in the activities of your students. Go beyond what happens
in the
school.
classroom.
Okay, when you see a child who is facing experiencing depression, look deep. Try to understand or know the root cause of that and
Speak to the
tackle
parents.
it. Look for a
If
way.
you notice something
If you notice that
fishy,
it's connected to the parents,
you-
then look out for bodies you can reach out to.
Yes.
Because our aim is ensure that every child under your care
It's
in your
protected.
school
It's
is
protected.
protected.
Yes. And I also want to say for parents for parents like mothers that don't speak out because you're trying to protect the image of this person.
So wrong.
Trying to protect, okay, your husband, this is my husband, how can I do this to my husband? You know, I think if you really care about this person, if you really want to protect the person's image, you should take this person through. Let them seek help.
Yes, let that
that
maybe your
abuser.
husband, your brother, your mother, your sister, whoever the abuser is.
They should
Now,
seek
okay,
help.
already we've taken a lot of time. So today we are just analyzing. We're trying to find help for a victim.
Yeah.
Now, the next edition will be we want to look into the life of an abuser.
Yes.
Yeah, because they just don't
They
show.
don't just wake up one and become abusers.
most of them are very manipulative.
Yes.
Mm.
So something must have happened. So
That made
that is
them
exactly what we are
marry.
going to look at.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say, in as much as we are protecting, we're fighting for the
The
victims. Okay. If we can as well.
Prefer solutions.
Help-
Help the
help
abuser.
the
Because
abuser.
sometimes an
Yeah.
abuser was once a victim.
Yes.
In most occasions,
Yes. Yes.
an abuser was.
So we
once
are
a
really going to
victim.
look into. We are really going to look into the case, the personality of an abuser.
Yes.
In our next edition.
Okay.
Okay, that will be all for today, and I believe you've learnt a lot from us. Please, if you have any questions, you have any concerns, you have anything you want us to help you with, kindly reach out to us. Victims, we're on Facebook. Just type Victims. Okay, we're on Facebook, and also call the number on the screen. Okay, and we'll certainly reach out to you. Okay, thank you so much for your time, and do have a wonderful day.
Bye.